After years of lingering whispers and unsettling rumors, the city of Port Charles found itself thrust into turmoil once again as a ghost from the past returned to reclaim her legacy. Stephanie Forrester, a name synonymous with power, elegance, and controversy, had long been presumed dead, lost forever in a tragic explosion that had left no room for doubt. But fate had other plans. Stephanie emerged from the shadows, dramatically altered in appearance, her once familiar features now obscured beneath a veil of vengeance. Her sudden and unexpected resurrection sent shockwaves throughout the elite social circles, setting the stage for a storm of revenge that promised to spare no one. The first to face the chilling truth was Eric Forrester, Stephanie's former husband and patriarch of the Forrester dynasty. Standing in the dim glow of his study late one evening, he sensed an unfamiliar presence. Turning sharply, his eyes widened in disbelief as the woman he once loved stepped forward into the lamplight. Stephanie, with eyes colder than the grave and an expression devoid of warmth, delivered a message that echoed with icy menace. She had returned not to reclaim lost love, nor to find redemption, but to exact retribution against all those she believed had betrayed her. Eric felt his heartbeat quicken, knowing that her return meant an irrevocable shift in the delicate balance of power. Stephanie's resurgence did not remain a secret for long. The news spread through Port Charles like wildfire, capturing the attention of every soul who had ever crossed her path. Brooke Logan, Stephanie's eternal rival and the woman whose complicated relationship with Eric had fueled decades of bitter conflict, felt a chill run down her spine when she heard the news. Memories long buried rushed back with ferocious intensity, years of bitter feuds, heartbreaking betrayals, and scandalous confrontations replayed in her mind. But beneath Brooke's initial shock was a growing dread, for Stephanie's return signaled not only a reopening of old wounds, but also the ominous prospect of unfinished battles being waged anew. Meanwhile, Ridge Forrester, Stephanie and Eric's son, found himself trapped in an emotional whirlwind. The mother he had grieved deeply and moved mountains to avenge was now alive, yet unrecognizably changed. Stephanie's warm embrace, her nurturing guidance, memories he had cherished had seemingly vanished, replaced by a relentless obsession for justice and punishment. Ridge knew the family was heading towards devastation, but despite his efforts, he could not slow Stephanie's relentless drive. His own loyalties were torn. Should he protect his mother or shield the family he had built during her supposed absence? But the deepest turmoil was reserved for Taylor Hayes, Stephanie's trusted confidant and close friend, who had grieved profoundly at her supposed death. Taylor had struggled tirelessly to preserve Stephanie's legacy, cherishing their friendship as sacred and unbreakable. Yet, when Stephanie appeared at Taylor's doorstep, her bitter accusations cut deeply. Stephanie accused Taylor of betrayal, accusing her friend of standing idle and indifferent during her time of need. The bitter confrontation escalated quickly, tearing apart their friendship and leaving Taylor shattered. The bond they had nurtured, once thought unshakable, crumbled as Stephanie declared that forgiveness was not an option. Stephanie's chilling return reached even into the corporate heart of Forrester Creations. The fashion empire, long held as an iconic bastion of elegance, success, and ambition, suddenly found itself threatened by the specter of vengeance. Stephanie moved swiftly, leveraging secrets she had quietly gathered in her years of exile. Dark truths, long hidden behind glamorous facades, were methodically unveiled. Each revelation struck a devastating blow to the carefully curated reputation of the Forrester family. Public scandals erupted as business deals collapsed, alliances fractured, and longtime friendships unraveled. The empire Stephanie had once lovingly helped build was now systematically dismantled, each act of sabotage executed with ruthless precision and haunting calm. As Port Charles struggled to cope with the chaos of Stephanie's revenge, one voice dared to rise in defiance. Katie Logan, Brooke's sister, found herself compelled to intervene. Despite the long and troubled history between the Logan and Forrester families, Katie reached out to Stephanie, hoping reason and compassion could breach the walls of bitterness and anger. But Stephanie met Katie's compassion with unflinching cruelty, reminding her that the wounds inflicted over the years could never be healed with empty words and hollow pleas for forgiveness. While Stephanie's vendetta intensified, Bill Spencer Jr., the ever-ruthless mogul whose ambitions had always clashed violently with the Forresters, saw Stephanie's return as an unprecedented opportunity. Recognizing the growing vulnerability of his rivals, Bill attempted to form a dangerous alliance with Stephanie. But Stephanie's response stunned him. She rebuffed his advances, making it clear her vengeance was a personal reckoning, her own war to wage, devoid of partnerships or compromise. Even as chaos engulfed Port Charles, a question gnawed at those who had survived Stephanie's initial wrath. What had truly happened in those lost years? Was Stephanie's explosion an orchestrated event designed to eliminate her? Had she been betrayed by those she trusted most? Or was her mind so scarred by trauma and isolation that she had twisted her memories into weapons of revenge? The truth remained cloaked in uncertainty, feeding speculation, paranoia, and further division. Quinn Fuller, Eric's current wife, soon became a pivotal target in Stephanie's unfolding vengeance. Stephanie viewed Quinn's presence as the ultimate betrayal, a usurper who had stolen her life, legacy, and even her family. In a confrontation charged with raw intensity, Stephanie vowed to destroy Quinn's happiness piece by piece. The war between the two powerful women ignited fiercely, shaking the foundation of Forrester creations and threatening to tear apart the family irreparably. Quinn, equally fierce and protective of her newly gained status, refused to back down, setting the stage for an epic clash where victory could only come at great cost. Stephanie's vengeance also had unforeseen casualties. Liam and Hope Spencer, Brooke's daughter and her husband, were caught in the crossfire. Their young marriage faced unprecedented strain as secrets manipulated by Stephanie surfaced. Trust shattered, alliances splintered, and love itself became collateral damage in Stephanie's war. Hope pleaded desperately for reconciliation and peace, but Stephanie remained merciless, indifferent to the destruction left in her wake. The ripple effects reached Thomas and Steffi Forrester, Stephanie's grandchildren, who wrestled with divided loyalties and emotional anguish. Stephanie, their grandmother and once guiding figure, had become an enigma, a force they neither recognized nor could reason with. Her bitterness and obsession clouded every family interaction, turning celebrations into confrontations, family gatherings into arenas of accusation and heartbreak. The younger generation struggled deeply, realizing their family might never recover from the wounds inflicted by Stephanie's relentless vendetta. Amid the turmoil, Port Charles sought answers. Anything that might reveal Stephanie's true motivations. But as her plan unfolded, it became clear she intended not simply to harm or humiliate, but to rewrite her legacy entirely. Stephanie's once-beloved identity was consumed by her desire for revenge, her humanity stripped away piece by piece, leaving a cold, calculating figure whose only remaining purpose was to ensure that those who had betrayed her suffered deeply and publicly. As Port Charles teetered on the edge of collapse, the lines between victim and villain blurred. Stephanie's vengeance, though fueled by genuine betrayal, had spiraled dangerously beyond control. Friendships had shattered, marriages crumbled, reputations were destroyed, and family bonds lay in ruin. But Stephanie herself paid the highest price. She found herself isolated, feared, and despised, the very fate she once believed she was inflicting upon others. Stephanie's resurrection and relentless quest for revenge irrevocably transformed Port Charles, rewriting destinies and leaving an indelible mark upon the city. Her story, a chilling reminder that vengeance could consume even the strongest soul, now stood etched into the city's history, a dark chapter impossible to forget, and a cautionary tale about the perilous line between justice and obsession. Stephanie's vendetta soon entered a darker, even more dangerous chapter. Driven by unending bitterness, she secretly plotted to dismantle Forrester Creations completely, ensuring no trace of the empire she once helped build remained. She began systematically orchestrating incidents designed to sow mistrust, confusion, and chaos within the family ranks. Her next move targeted Ridge and Brooke's fragile relationship. Exploiting Ridge's lingering guilt and Brooke's long history of insecurities, Stephanie anonymously leaked intimate, yet misleading, communications suggesting Ridge's infidelity. Brooke, heartbroken and betrayed, confronted Ridge bitterly, triggering a fiery and public breakdown of their marriage. Stephanie observed from afar, her heart cold, feeling no remorse for the damage she inflicted on her own son's happiness. With Ridge emotionally devastated and Brooke retreating into solitude, Stephanie shifted her relentless focus to Quinn once more. Quinn had fortified her defenses, determined to protect her life with Eric and stand her ground, but Stephanie's tactics grew increasingly sinister. Using her knowledge of Quinn's past scandals and secrets, Stephanie blackmailed her former friends and associates into publicly accusing Quinn of theft, sabotage, and deception. Each accusation deepened Eric's mistrust, gradually poisoning the marriage Quinn had fought fiercely to protect. Quinn's desperation drove her to confront Stephanie directly, and the confrontation was explosive. Anger, bitterness, and hatred collided, resulting in a fierce struggle that ended in tragedy when Quinn fell, severely injured and comatose. Stephanie, though momentarily shaken, fled the scene without remorse, leaving Eric shattered by guilt and grief as he struggled by Quinn's bedside, uncertain if she would ever wake again. The events spiraled further out of control, drawing law enforcement into the tangled web. Detective Alex Sanchez began piecing together clues, discovering Stephanie's fingerprints behind every scandalous revelation. Realizing Stephanie had orchestrated each betrayal, the police initiated a citywide manhunt, but Stephanie remained elusive, hiding behind new identities and manipulated loyalties. Her cunning became legendary, and as weeks passed without capture, Stephanie's influence over Port Charles expanded, her specter haunting every relationship, every deal, every interaction. Hope and Liam, whose relationship had barely survived the initial turmoil, desperately sought stability amidst the chaos. Stephanie, sensing vulnerability, enacted her next devastating step, directly targeting Liam's integrity. By planting fabricated evidence, Stephanie implicated Liam in financial fraud against Forrester Creations, destroying his reputation overnight. Hope's faith in Liam faltered, and their marriage crumbled under the unbearable weight of suspicion and betrayal. Liam, broken and isolated, tried to clear his name, but Stephanie had covered every track meticulously, leaving no way out. As Liam's life unraveled, Stephanie watched from the shadows, feeling a grim sense of satisfaction. Meanwhile, Taylor, tormented by guilt over her ruined friendship with Stephanie, vowed to confront her again, desperate to find remnants of her former friend's humanity. Tracking Stephanie to a secluded cabin outside Port Charles, Taylor faced her one final time. In a heartbreaking confrontation, Taylor begged Stephanie to abandon her destructive quest, to reclaim some semblance of the woman who had once been her closest confidant. Stephanie, however, remained unwavering, declaring she had left that woman behind long ago. Stephanie's ruthless confession shattered Taylor's hopes, leading to a heated argument that ended abruptly when Stephanie turned violent, leaving Taylor barely alive, trapped alone in the wilderness as Stephanie vanished yet again. Ridge, reeling from personal tragedies and family betrayals, reached a breaking point. He joined forces with Bill Spencer, the last person he ever imagined allying with, desperate to end Stephanie's reign of terror. Ridge and Bill set a cunning trap, orchestrating a staged scandal that they knew Stephanie could not resist exploiting. True to form, Stephanie took the bait, unknowingly revealing herself to authorities in the process. A dramatic pursuit ensued through the heart of Port Charles, ending in an emotional standoff atop the Forrester building, symbolically at the very heart of the empire she aimed to destroy. Stephanie faced Ridge at the edge of the rooftop, cornered yet defiant. Ridge, pleading with her one last time, desperately tried to reach the mother he once loved, to rekindle some spark of humanity buried beneath layers of vengeance. Stephanie's response was chilling, a cold acknowledgement that revenge had consumed her completely. She revealed that years in exile, scarred by betrayal and isolation, had stripped away all compassion. Her pain had transformed into the weapon she now wielded mercilessly against all who had wronged her. Below, Port Charles watched in stunned silence as the confrontation unfolded. Eric, heartbroken but resolute, joined Ridge on the rooftop, hoping his presence might somehow break Stephanie's obsession. But seeing Eric only deepened her fury. Stephanie accused Eric of the ultimate betrayal, replacing her so effortlessly, forgetting their life together so quickly. Eric's heartfelt apology and sincere pleas fell upon deaf ears. Stephanie had already severed her emotional ties to him, her heart hardened beyond redemption. Cornered, Stephanie made one final, dramatic gesture. Rather than surrender or express remorse, she defiantly declared her revenge complete, having dismantled Forrester Creations, destroyed relationships, and shattered the legacy built on secrets and lies. With a final, piercing look at Eric and Ridge, Stephanie stepped backward, deliberately allowing herself to fall from the rooftop, choosing her own tragic end rather than facing capture or compromise. Stephanie's death stunned Port Charles, a tragic end to a woman whose life had once defined power and prestige. Her legacy became a cautionary tale, echoing warnings against vengeance and obsession. But her actions left behind lasting scars. Eric mourned the woman he once loved, struggling daily with guilt and grief. Ridge carried a heavy burden of regret, unable to forgive himself for failing to save his mother. Brooke grappled with bitterness and loneliness, haunted by what might have been. Quinn eventually awoke from her coma, forever changed and traumatized by Stephanie's ruthless attack. Liam, though vindicated, was forever marked by suspicion and mistrust. Years later, Port Charles still felt the aftermath of Stephanie's revenge. Families remained fractured, trust was slow to rebuild, and the name Stephanie Forrester invoked complicated memories of power, betrayal, obsession, and the tragic consequences of vengeance taken too far. Though Stephanie was gone, her spirit lingered, a reminder that beneath the glamour, luxury, and glittering facade of their lives lay vulnerabilities capable of driving even the strongest souls toward darkness. Port Charles would never be the same. Stephanie's shadow lingered, permanently etched into the city's history, whispering warnings of how easily one's humanity could unravel when vengeance was allowed to consume the heart.